Live and online, it's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, it's Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube. We come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening. The color is sulfuric yellow today. That is what the color, piss yellow, puke yellow, whatever you want to call it. I like sulfuric. That's the term I used in my review.
It is a fun term.
Of the movie we are talking about today. Kane Parsons' Backrooms made over $80 million at the box office this weekend. There's a really good chance you saw it. Combined with Curry Barker's Obsession, over $100 million alone, advocated to 2 movies with directors under the age of 27. What a time to be alive. Kyle Smith, one of the most cantankerous film critics, his word, not mine. Kyle Smith on Twitter this weekend retweeted the box office success of Backrooms and Obsession and said we are about to get 300 horror movies next year.
Oh, my God. Yeah, you're right. Well, we might touch on that later, but just everyone wanting to recreate this phenomenon and just throw money.
They might
at
even
anyone.
give us $750,000 for a Sleepless with Steve movie. You don't know, man. What a time to be alive for YouTubers. Remember when YouTube was going to ruin cinemas? YouTubers are saving cinema. We will touch on that. There's a lot to talk about. Backrooms is the main thing, obviously, today that we're touching on. Huge success. We've got the character. We got Ice Cube's character now, apparently from War of the Worlds, I believe, joining us right now. We'll see if he taps in here.
As soon as I'm like, oh no, is that his?
No, it's just Joe.
Is he doing? Is that like a work account? No, it's just the bit.
It's just the bit that I didn't change on my phone since the last time.
That's so
We
funny.
got Joe Viso as well in here. A little bit of a late arrival, unseen but appreciated. Still will be heard. Dominic Guanzon obviously joining, hosting the show today too. So shout out to you, Dom. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Making sure we go live for Backrooms because you know what? This OBS and Zoom might as well be Blender to me, which is what Kane Parsons used to storyboard and work with and develop the Backrooms concept and everything like that. Joe, you hanging out for the duration of the show, or are you with us briefly?
No, I'll be here for the whole time. I literally, so for those of you who don't know, on the first Wednesday of the month on Sleepless, I basically have an after work meeting. I'm part of a committee that I have to participate in. And today, the chair of the committee wasn't there, so some guy just, was like one of his right-hand people that's part of the committee led the meeting, and he's like, I'm gonna get us out of here in no time. I'm like, yeah, okay. And he got the meeting done in 30 minutes when it used to always be an hour and a half. So I was like, oh shit, I can talk about Backrooms now.
Good stuff. So we've got the trio together for Backrooms. I promised Dom off air and last week on the show. I think of the three of us, he has the relationship with this concept more greater than the three of us. I could be wrong on that. I was kind of a late adopter to the Backrooms, or at least to get entrenched in it. And I'm not even that well entrenched to it. I understand it. I understand sort of the allure to it, the origins of it, and how I relate to the concept too. But I wanted to give Dom the ability to introduce this movie and kind of steer the conversation too, just because of his relationship and everything with it too. So Dom, we are at the mercy of whatever labyrinth you want to put us in for Kane Parsons' Backrooms, my friend.
Look, I will keep it short, but I just want to stay for the record. This is like my Super Bowl. This is like Barbenheimer for me. It really, I haven't felt this way about a cinema event since then, I think. Yeah, this feels really good, especially with the celebratory feeling I have after watching this, which I think you can extrapolate, how my general feelings about the film Backrooms. But talking about the Backrooms, just a very, very, very brief, because there are literal 6-hour videos on YouTube of people talking about this. And all of it engaging. I've probably seen it, honestly. I love this shit. But the Backrooms as a concept truly is an internet phenomenon. You cannot divorce it from that. And that cultural, milestone that this film represents is really just circles back all the way to a photo that, or really a message on 4chan that was posted in 2011 there does exist. People know the original post on 4chan from the 2010s. Technically, the photo was originally uploaded in 2003, but like the internet does, it recycles content for whatever its nefarious purposes. And in 2011, I'll read it here because it's very short. Someone posted the original Backrooms photo, which is what Steve has in his background there. But the original poster put, "If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the backrooms," capital B, "where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you." And that was posted on 4chan. And really, since then, that I don't think the original user has been properly identified. Some people have claimed to have found the original user. It was an anon, right, on 4chan. And part of me just
the cellar dweller did.
Yeah, honestly,
cellar dweller did.
I really enjoy. I kind of hope we never. I mean, part of me does want to know, but I kind of hope we never find out, because that's just what the internet is. That's what old internet is people sharing things for the love of the game, right? And
it's like I said, the original Bed Intruder. Remember Antoine Dodson, the Bed Intruder song? Yeah. They never caught the guy. He's singing the damn thing in the shower. You know what I mean? I don't mean to cut you off.
No. That's very, very true. And there is something about that is being lost in 2026 and onward. But that's a commentary for another day. What the fandom did with the Backrooms is nothing short of astounding. But there really are two branches of the concept known as the Backrooms. And the original branch was basically a wiki or a community or a fandom of people just anarchistically, and I mean that in a good way, anarchistically lending themselves, adding to this lore in what really is kind of like a video gamey thing. So the original Backrooms is the image that you see there, the most famous yellow. But over time, this community of random internet users added levels, quote unquote, where they would just continue descending down into other random liminal spaces, which is a massive part of this aesthetic. It's almost a requirement for whatever level you yourself decide to create. So you have empty parking lots, maintenance tunnels, just wide open Windows XP looking grass fields that just don't feel quite right. And they're all full of monsters, all full of special rules, and it is fun. I don't mean to lambast it, because it in itself is a whole other world that's arguably bigger in terms of its depth than the film. But the other major branch, at least that we can talk about today, the other major branch of the Backrooms as a concept is basically sticking to this main horror feel, this creepy, really unsettling, found footage-esque kind of feel to the whole damn thing. And a YouTuber by the name of Kane Pixels, who we now know as Kane Parsons, really knocked it out of the park with a particular video called The Backrooms, parentheses, found footage, which now has 82 million views on YouTube as of right now. And from then on, over the years, so that was uploaded in January of 2022. And over the years, 22 videos so far have been released, almost nearing 29 million views in total of what I consider to be some of the best YouTube horror, the best liminal space feeling found footage stuff on YouTube, just original content that I am just so happy got turned into an A24 film. And yes, as I mentioned, A24 saw the concept, saw the potential of what this really 20-year-old now, you can't stop hearing about it. It's really become a meme at this point, where everyone in the comments of anything Kane Parsons is involved in, it's like, I can't believe Kane was an embryo when he started working on this film. It was but it has just kind of exploded into this massive mainstream thing. And there's, again, hours I could talk about this phenomenon, but I'll really just leave it there for you gentlemen to pick up, because Backrooms, just Backrooms, is now in theaters, and I truly feel like I like something is being celebrated in my suburban upbringing culture, that internet laden culture, and I'm so happy for it.
The purview of this is really fascinating too, because like I would love to see, I'm sure there's a demographic breakdown somewhere, but I want to see what percentage of ticket sales for this movie were purchased by people 30 and under. Because I'm willing to bet you it is probably an astronomical, sort of unheard of figure of like 70% plus.
Yeah.
This is something that is unusually Gen Z, unusually like elder millennial, and a concept that really, in a movie that really speaks the language of the internet.
Do you mean younger millennial, for the record? Younger millennial?
Younger millennial,
Yeah, I know what you
excuse me.
meant.
Yes. Younger millennial. But yeah, this, and everybody's kind of got their relationship with the Backrooms. Like, you know, a lot of people that are into it have a, why does this, and this is like where I try to put on the hat of an armchair psychologist. Like, why does this concept, why does this photo behind me, how the hell did this end up resonating the way that it did, and the lore be built upon it and everything? And I go back, watching this movie took me back to an experience I had in high school with a buddy of mine. His name is Sam. I've mentioned him offhandedly, one of my best friends on the show before. And basically, when we were in high school, we couldn't drive. We didn't have licenses, but we would meet up at the park in the neighborhood in the summer, and we would walk around our suburban enclave. Now, back then, my hometown was not as built up as it is now. There was a strip mall that was all but abandoned. It was very populated when I was a kid, but I think of like 12 fronts. By the time it was torn down, there were only 2 or 3 left. So there was a ungodly amount, a disproportionately amount of empty storefronts. And we used to walk along that strip mall on like a random like Monday morning in the summer, and we would peer into the windows. And I love looking in closed businesses. I still do. One of my favorite YouTubers, Mallaholic, makes a whole event of it, going around to closed fast food places all around Illinois.
I think
did
I
some
know
in
what you're
LaSalle.
talking about. It's really a subgenre in and of itself. Empty office
It is.
spaces, empty, like malls and businesses.
And he
There's
could
a
never
bunch of
go in them.
creators.
He could never go in him. He would just hold the phone up to the window and like show like a closed down Burger King. He was in LaSalle, Peru. He was in LaSalle, Peru when I lived there. I offered to buy him a beer. He didn't respond. But anyway, though, so I had a fascination. There was an old arcade, Crazy Clyde's, in my hometown that we would peer into, and I remember seeing like photos kids drew that were still on the walls. And this arcade had been closed for like 8-9 years at the time. There were pictures that kids drew. There was wiring and broken machines, and like, you know, I didn't realize until watching this movie how much that shit stayed with me, and I don't know why. It's like I was kind of like, you know, I wondered where those kids were now, how old they were, if they even remembered drawing those pictures, whether or not they would even want them today. You know, where are the people? Does anybody have any tangible memories of this place and stuff like that? There was a video store we looked into as well, the same thing. So I've always had kind of this weird fascination with like empty populated areas that are abnormally empty and stuff like that. A lot of Backrooms photos or liminal photography photos that you see online come from hotels.
Yeah.
And indoor water parks as well as another popular thing. But it's fascinating how we all kind of have this. I feel like Gen Z, like born like 2005 plus, like Kane, Parsons age. I feel like their fascination with these kinds of spaces is in a way indicative that like we grew up with places that looked like this behind me right here. We grew up with like wallpaper and like these strange like a colorful world, like McDonald's playpens and stuff like that. Everything now architecturally is so homogenized, and I wonder if this this is not was not experienced by a lot of people that are even like 10 years younger than us. And I wonder if they see like an inherent ominousness with it, where like the older generation is just like, yeah, it's just a room or something like that. It's so fascinating, and there's a psychological deep dive to be done in why this thing is so resonant.
First of all, I want to just mention that I forgot to update the scroll, the Chiron. So for the record, we are not talking about American Graffiti today. This is all backroom
nice.
stuff. but yes. Oh man, you got me going. I have a kind of a rant to go on. We'll get to it hopefully after the more on the nose discussion of the movie, or rather the step by step. But for me, just that architectural homogeny, it kind of lends itself to the decline of effort by companies. Just the soul suckingness out of, look, we can all make fun of 70s, 80s, 90s aesthetic, even 2000s aesthetic, and we should, because a lot of it is funny. But you can't deny that there was an effort there. Now in 2026, or at the very least the late 2010s, it just doesn't have that kind of spirit anymore. And
nothing wants to stand out anymore. McDonald's looks like fucking H&R Block.
And there is an extremely practical reason why. It's because a lot of McDonald's profit now comes from real estate. And a lot of these fast food places, all they're really doing in the macro is just switching hands of their stores, coming
Correct.
and going. I think there's even a court case about, I don't know if it's a court case, but like McDonald's real estate internal algorithm for real estate is like more important than the Big Mac, I think, or something like that, like the secret formula for whatever food. But that's all a rant, just meaning to say that what the Backrooms kind of harkens back to in a way, not directly, of course, but what it kind of taps into is that, decline in effort, both in what internet storytelling has been, with a lot of slop, architecturally, and just kind of how the big wigs in the Backrooms universe kind of operate, the big bads that aren't the entities, but rather in real life as well. But again, that's a discussion for later, I think.
Yeah, and this story, I'll get to you. I'll let Joe chime in here in a second. This story, and Kane's been I kind of refer to him on a first name basis, but Kane Parsons has been very transparent in the regard, and a lot of the press he's doing, and saying that, like, this is by no means, this isn't the Backrooms. This is Backrooms.
Right.
This is a story, and Kane, also worth noting too, he's not the writer of this. Will Siddiq is the writer of this movie. But he said this is not by any means a definitive story of the Backrooms. This is a story about the Backrooms.
Mm-hmm.
He said this is just our interpretation of it, where we wanted to take the story, and like that. And this follows, it's like set in the 90s, I want to say, and it follows the owner of a failing furniture store, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, and he's lost his home in a divorce. He lives at the furniture store. He sees a therapist played by I should have looked up how to say her name, Renee Renesvee, and Rinesvee. I should have looked up that name, but he sees a therapist, and essentially one day while trying to sleep at the furniture store, he walks through the wall of the furniture store and winds up finding what feels like the empty version of the furniture store on the completely opposite side of the building, of the actual store. Just this labyrinth-like sulfuric yellow maze of rooms that don't make any sense. Shit's half formed, like you have desks and chairs on top of each other that don't look fully developed. Nothing makes sense. There's odd ambient noises. You can hear the hum of the fluorescent lights. And it's a lot of wandering for the beginning part of the movie. It's a lot of wandering. It's a lot of like discovery and like figuring out, is there something in here? What's the purpose of this? And that's the interesting thing about this movie too, that like the Backrooms, you can't even call them purgatory. They're not purgatory. They're not hell. There's no reason for you to even be in there. There's no objective or anything. You're just in there. It's like the idea of no clipping. When you exit the reality of the game, you're just stuck. You're just like stuck, and you have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. And that's what makes it all the more mystifying, entrancing, haunting, whatever whatever you want to ascribe to it, this is very much, I've been telling people, this is very much an is what you make of it movie. And it's one of the odd movies, like if somebody tells me they didn't like Sinners, we're going to have a Siskel and Ebert debate. Somebody tells me they don't like Backrooms, I totally get it.
Yeah.
I totally understand.
The-
Joe, what say you?
Yeah.
So no, man, Dom, I mean, dude, you did a great job at explaining it all and everything. Like honestly, you really, really did. I'll say this, that like I was looking forward to this movie. Obviously, not as much as Dom because he has way more context than I do. I didn't even know about the image at first. My first introduction was Kane Parsons' short film.
Mhm.
So for me, going into this movie, that's all the Backrooms was to me, is just that short film. I never really watched any of the other ones he did. I never played any of the games that like that indie
Neither did
developers
I.
made.
I never played any of those. There's like 2 dozen different games, and some are more
Yeah.
popular than others, but they all
There
generally,
is
yeah.
There is one that A24 did partner with. Apparently, it's like one of the better ones out there. But A24 did partner with, and there is a level where you can go through the little like blue paint doorway, and you're in the furniture store, and you have to find a VHS tape in there and everything, and you have to get out. So I'm like, okay, I might check out that one just to see that level specifically. But for the film, man, I'm gonna say this. May was a blessing for us horror fans because we got to eat good. Between starting out the month with Hokum, having Obsession in the middle, and now for dessert, it's the Backrooms. And I couldn't have not asked for a better way to kind of close out the month of May with all the horror movies we got. I didn't see Passenger, so I can't speak to that one. But just these 3 movies alone, I mean, reception-wise from both audiences, critics, very positive. Box office-wise, especially the latter 2, have done really well. Hokum made back its budget and then some. I mean, the other 2 movies, Obsession and now Backrooms, I mean, they are making bank, and I couldn't be any more happier about it because to me, these are some of the most refreshing movies I've seen at the theater from big studios like Universal / Blumhouse with Obsession, and then A24, which is crazy to say about an A24 movie because like A24 is usually known for doing that. But lately, like, not that they've been getting stale or anything, but it's like the whole idea of A24, like they recently announced like, oh, we're going to be doing a little bit more mainstream films here and there. Like, you had something like Warfare, which again, great movie, but it's like, it's a horror movie. It's not doing anything I haven't seen done before. How it does it is very unique, but it's nothing that's like out of this world. Backrooms felt really unique. And while, yes, there are the short films out there and everything, seeing Kane Parsons be able to do his vision that he did on YouTube for years on a big theater screen with a movie studio backing his budget was everything I could have hoped for. Like I said, I've watched that one short. I saw the other short he did about the rolling giant inside of that mall. I know that's not necessarily the Backrooms, but again, I just love his style of filmmaking with the camcorder and how he lets shots linger on just the weirdness of like the area you're in. And to me, the Backrooms' bread and butter is when Kane Parsons just does that. The best parts of this movie, and while yes, like what Steve was saying, like it's a lot of wandering in the first half of this movie, at least when he first enters the Backrooms, Clark that is, there is this sort of eeriness of like, what is he going to discover? And it's like he comes around the corner and he sees like a cutout of something, and I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, why is it talking like that and everything? And it's like saying all these different languages, and then one thing leads to another. And then, the second time we go back in there, and now it's done in Kane Parsons, like, camcorder footage and everything. And it's like, oh my God, like this is literally his YouTube short, like coming to life now on the big screen. And he's flexing his creative muscles even more to where like crazier stuff is happening. The use of shadows is being incorporated. There's a great shot in this movie where Clark enters the room. There's only one source of light. And the entire time I was in the room watching the movie, I'm like, there's something back there. I know there is. There's something back there. I see it. And the whole time it is just messing with my head. And when it builds up to the reveal, I actually screamed in my seat because I actually got caught off guard at what it was. I couldn't be any more happier to see all these young filmmakers not only like move on from YouTube to go into film now and have success, but having the amount of success that they're having, getting to work with a studio like A24 or Blumhouse that lets their lets their directors really do some creative stuff, like on a limited budget, but like still a good enough budget for something like Obsession and The Backrooms to creatively do their thing and really flex their creative muscles here. It was such a treat to see this movie. I do have some criticism and everything, but I want to give the flowers are due, because like, my God, man, A, what a great month for horror fans, but B, what a way to cap it off with The Backrooms.
I saw this movie twice opening weekend. Once on Saturday and then the next day on Sunday as well. Back to back days, back to back nights. And those wandering scenes, those initial like, whoa, we're entering the back rooms. I was afraid the second time, because first time, yeah, excellent. Just great. Love it. This is exactly what I wanted, and it's hitting on every level. Incredible filmmaking. Second time, I was like, okay, is this going to hold up? That's the test. And I'm sure it's just me also high off my own supply, but second time, it was just so engaging. I knew exactly what was going to happen because I had just seen it 24 hours earlier, and it still hits for me. I'm like, bro, I could watch Chiwetel Ejiofor wander around this place for 2 hours, just making that same puzzled face that he always makes in so many movies. Just his sweaty ass like face of like, and I could just watch it for forever. It's just so.
He's got a great reactive forehead.
His face is like clay. I mean that in a great way. I really do mean that as a deep compliment, because he can just make any face pop out into the most and not make it feel corny. It doesn't feel corny. It just feels earnest, and whether it's horrifying or genuine or just devious, oh, it's so good.
I would have taken a whole film of him just running into the back rooms, pulling furniture and bringing it to his store. I would have just loved watching a whole movie of that, of him just being like, what else can I steal from in here and bring it back into my store?
He's wonderful. I mean, and like I said, it's easy to forget. I mean, it was 13 years ago, but he won an Oscar. Like, he's an Oscar-winning actor. Like, and that's another thing that's impressive too. Is like Kane Parsons, he ain't working with Rudy Poots over here. You know what I mean? He's working with, Ejiofor and Mark Duplass, who's in this thing too, who's a big supporter of indie filmmakers and everything. I want to read this quick quote, and this quote has nothing to do with The Backrooms, but it made me think of it. It's Roger Ebert, the GOAT, his review of Open Water. Have you guys seen Open Water?
Mm-mm.
No.
That's the movie. If you don't know what it's about, it's a true story. It's based on a true story about this couple that went scuba diving and then got miscounted when they were underwater, and the boat left them in the middle of, I think, the Atlantic. I want to say it was the Atlantic Ocean. But the whole movie is them floating adrift in the water, and they were never found. They were never found. It is one of the scariest survival thriller movies I've ever seen, and really, it's just a couple in the water. But I mentioned earlier about how like The Backrooms is a fascinating concept, especially how it exists in Kane Parsons' world, because it's not a purgatorial space. It's not hell. You're not really put here for any reason. Roger Ebert, in his review of Open Water, Backrooms made me think of this quote. And I think it applies to Backrooms. I think you could cut and paste it and make it about the Backrooms. He says, the movie is about what a slender thread supports our conviction that our lives have importance and make sense. We need that conviction in order to live at all. And when it is irreversibly taken away from us, what a terrible fate to be left alive to know it. And I find that quote, you could see where his mind went, because he gave Open Water a great review. You could see where his mind went and how it like affected him watching that movie. And it's kind of the same thing with this. Like, it's a common criticism, like the genre itself of found footage. This movie employs, and I don't even know, like stylistically it's found footage in a way, but the way this movie employs like handheld videography in a couple different instances, once in the opening and then again later in the movie when Clark, Ejiofor's character, recruits two of his workers to investigate the backrooms. The way it employs the found footage sort of handheld camera device in this thing is very fascinating and very refreshing.
Yeah. It's God, you could just draw us a through line from Blair Witch to this, because it's so good.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, like for a young creative director to come in here and like, found footage horror has been a thing for so long and popularized because of Blair Witch. Yet, I remember watching that short, being like, man, there was just something unique about that. And then, like, watching it on the big screen, it's like, dude, even though, like, yeah, I mean, I've seen him do it with the short, the way he's doing it here on film, it is so much different because, yeah, he has so many tools at his disposal and he's using it all. Like, and, the fact he actually has like an actor behind the camera too that can actually like emote and like, you can feel his sense of fear and everything. It's just like adding like that to, what he does with, just the camera work during that segment and the lighting and everything else. It's like, holy shit, dude. Like, this is all I could have asked for this movie to be.
There is a very, very fine art when it comes to found footage, which is towing the line between readability. I'll say readability and realism, in the sense of like, okay, if this were the real footage of actually being in the back rooms or Blair Witch or whatever you're doing, 90% of it would be like the floor, right? Running around and you're not really seeing too much, but keeping those grounding things in while shooting an actual film is a very interesting choice to make. That's what makes found footage so compelling, because it is diegetic. It is not diegetic music, it's diegetic film. And that's what's so awesome. Shout out to cinematographer Jeremy Cox. A lot of not big names on this film, from the writer, cinematographer, we'll talk about the music, editor. Not a lot of huge names, and I'm like, that's so dang cool. I'm looking at Wikipedia now. There's like a dozen producers.
A lot of people got in on this.
I did, and a lot of them were Wikipedia, including Wikipedia pages, including James Wan, Sean Levy. Damn. Okay, shoot. I literally just Osgood Perkins.
Sean Levy's hugely successful too. He's made not the greatest movies on the face of the earth, like Cheaper by the Dozen and Big Fat Liar, but he's got a hell of a bankroll. I would imagine he's one of the highest grossing directors in Hollywood history.
Man.
I was gonna say, when I saw Atomic Monster pop up at the start of this film, I'm like, oh shit, even James Wan got in on this. Like, I was just like, damn, 2 times this month.
I like how I don't know if you saw it, but I like how Duplass came out, and I've been a fan of the Duplass brothers, Mark and Jay, for years. I've discovered them, quote unquote, shortly after when I started writing reviews, because that's when they started directing, was like the late 2000s, early 2010s. They were sort of a gateway drug for me into like independent movies. So I actually owe a lot to Jay and Mark Duplass, just as creatives. I think they're wonderful. They're wonderful people. They haven't directed a whole lot in the last 10 years. They've mainly focused. Mark's done more TV. Jay's done more producing and funding. But what's interesting, though, I like how Mark Duplass came out, because there were like some baseless rumors, excuse me, about how did Kane direct this himself, or was he sort of guided by producers in that way? And Mark came out and said, like, no, he had the command of the set. And he didn't have to do that. Like, Kane wasn't offended by the allegations or anything like that. It was just Mark just hopping on Instagram, shutting it down and saying, like, no, he was hands-on the whole time. He was a true director, like a true filmmaker on this movie. What it reminds me of kind of a little bit, maybe not on the macro level, but it reminds me of Super 8, when Super 8 came out, and that was J.J. Abrams' like big debut, and Spielberg was a producer on that. There was some allegations, and I do believe those, that Spielberg was more of a hands-on director for that movie. For Super 8, because there was a lot of like Goonies related stuff and like sort of like Close Encounters-ish stuff that, it might have been completely JJ, but it had a Spielberg flavor, and the fact that he was the main executive producer on it made me think of that. What I do see, and I fully subscribe to the fact that Kane has his fingerprints all over this, and this is his and Will Saduk's story. But what I will say, though, is that I definitely felt, I don't know if he was on set. I have no information on this. This is just going off a feel and my love for him as a filmmaker. There's parts of this, especially in writing, that feel like Osgood Perkins. There's parts of this that feel like I could believe Perkins was like, not critical, but Perkins was like, if you shoot it like this, or you deliver the line like this, or do something like that. Like there's some creative influence of Perkins in this movie. And I think I think it's valid there. But I also think too, it's like anytime you get like just an unknown person like Kane Parsons, or relative unknown in the Hollywood sphere, that there's always, you know what I mean? There's always people that are going to undercut you or try to undercut your success. But I could see a little bit of Perkins influence here on this thing. Not saying it's true. It's just the way I felt.
Yeah, for sure. The rest of this really small cast. This is not an expansive thing, unlike the Backrooms itself. The cast here is it's tight. This is a very efficient movie. Did you actually would you debate that? Because I try to stay away from most criticisms, but I couldn't help myself here. How did you feel about the efficiency of this movie? Did you feel like it was repeating some beats, particularly when Renee Redzepi enters the Backrooms herself?
No, I didn't. I thought the movie did a really good job at communicating the Backrooms effect on different people.
Yeah.
In that situation, I really did. Now, do I think if a criticism I could levy is that, and this has become a problem, I think, just in general in some ways, and I think it's what happens when typically an artist has either too much control of a movie, or like a select few have too much control over a movie, is that the movie does kind of feel like it has three endings. You know, like it has three. And it's funny, I just sung his praises in so many different respects. I found Duplass to be needless in the movie. I didn't need him. I really didn't. Like, I think you could cut him out entirely from the movie.
Meanwhile, he's like anything in a bunch of marketing materials, like in the same breath as like a Ejiofor and Renzepi. Yeah.
Because there's just not a lot of people in the damn thing either. You know what I mean? Shout out Evan Jogia too from Victorious. He's in it briefly. But yeah, like, we'll talk about this more. We're butting up against intermission. We'll talk about this more because I know Joe probably has some criticisms he wants to share as well too. But for the most part, mine are very minute. I was locked in on this thing from the very beginning, too, just as an interesting piece of work, and how you could take this image and develop it, the concept, into something like this. We'll be back here in just a couple of minutes. We got a Zoom-sponsored intermission coming up. We're talking Kane Parsons' Backrooms, the box office success. Joe Viso, Dominic Guanzon, yours truly, back in a couple of minutes right here on Sleepless with Steve. Back and better than ever after our Zoom-sponsored intermission of Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube. Joe on camera as well, too, talking Backrooms, starring Chiwetel Ejiofor and Renata Reinsve. We got clarification on her pronunciation. My apologies for not going and addressing that initially. I'll throw it over to you. I'll throw it back over to you too, Dom. I know you want to make a point about the music.
Yes, we never celebrated enough, which is mostly my fault as the guy who's supposed to be the music guy around here. But shout out to Edo Van Bremen. That's a name. That's a Wikipedia page that doesn't feel too old. He has one. They have one. But regardless, similar to Obsession, because I called out, or rather celebrated, the music of Obsession, and I just want to reiterate it here. That's probably one of the most blatant parallel or similarities between these two movies is its use of microtonal electronic muted aesthetic kind of music. And by microtonal, I mean it's the space in between the half steps that you have to really train your ear to hear that stuff. You can feel it. It's like many things in filmmaking. Even if you can't process it, you can feel it. And what Backrooms does with its score is so beautiful. It's the scene specifically I'm thinking of. It's a very, very beautiful shot part of the movie. This is a every frame of painting kind of movie, you know. So it's the scene where Ejiofor's Clark is first entering the back rooms. It's that long sequence when you're first sinking your teeth into the back rooms. And he enters a smaller room just after seeing the caveman cardboard cutout. And he's looking up a wall where a wire is coming up. And the electronic score is softly playing these chords that just descend. It's descending chords like bwah, bwah, and it's just unsettling. It is the most obvious unsettling thing that we get in terms of score, and it's a beautiful, gorgeous moment.
It actually replicates the same feeling or the same thing you're looking at.
Yes.
Like everything you're looking at, like he describes in the movie, it's familiar, but it's also not at the same time. You know, the whole quote of like, imagine you describe a dog to someone who's never seen a dog and you ask them to draw it. The music is kind of doing the same thing. It's playing this synth music that kind of matches like the 90s aesthetic and everything, but it lingers on a note way too long that it makes you unsettled. And it's like, that's so cool that they did that. Again, and like, you know, something that he wasn't able to do on YouTube, he's able to do it here. And I know that's not necessarily Kane Parsons necessarily, but it's like, I imagine he was in the recording booth.
He's a co-composer.
He's a co-composer.
Oh, fuck. All right.
Well, it's one of those situations where you don't know until like you get like a behind the scenes thing. So really, shout out to both is what I was leading to. But ultimately, you're right, Joe, because I'm sure there's some audio file on the internet that already has like downloaded the whole soundtrack. Probably pirated the movie and like ran it through whatever stuff he's got, and you can like down to the not the decibel, that's the loudness, but rather the megahertz, right? The frequencies of all these chords that they're playing, and it's not quite right. It's not tuned exactly to a keyboard, right? You can't just play that off of anything. You need to really get into the bare bones of it, and it's just off. It just feels off.
It's I think another term is like a tonal.
Yeah,
you know, like it's like a tonal. It just doesn't sound right, but it fits, and that's the abstraction of it. I like the score a lot. I think the score is ominous. It's like industrialized in a way, and
it's industrialized,
really like
and commercialized, not in a movie sense, but it also again harkens back to that. I was thinking, I just thought of the YouTube kind of subgenre or whatever. It's a type of video where it's like. It's a still image of just a scene. And it's like, you're in an abandoned Toys R Us at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. And it's just like, hey there, Delilah, but ran through like...
a shitty speaker.
A shitty speaker, like a reverb. It like has like 5 layers of reverb set over it. And it's just nothing. Thank you. Yeah. and there's no motion. It's just a still image, but it's supposed to just imagine this scene. right? It gets to the heart of that feeling. Yeah.
Dude, there was one time I went to a Kohl's, side story. I went to a Kohl's with
Love
my
it.
mom
Yeah.
and I got separated from her while a storm was happening.
Oh
And
no.
like it was like there were no workers near me. I couldn't find my mom, and just in the distance you just hear starting today, you get Kohl's cash. And it's just like that's all I'm hearing around me, and there's nobody around me. I was legit. This is before the back rooms like I discovered anything about. I was like 12 or 13 at the time, but I was like, did I die and go to hell? Where the hell is everyone? Like this store is empty. And then like I go to the other side, and it's like everybody's looking out front because it's just downpouring so hard that like almost everybody in the store went to the front of the store and is just waiting there.
We don't talk enough about the when you get separated from your parents at a grocery store or something like that as a kid, and how
Yeah.
like eerie that shit is.
Shit,
You know,
make that the back rooms too.
well, and Coles is the worst.
That kind of did happen in this movie. Because like a group
It's
of
true.
three, go into the movie,
That's true, yeah.
or go into the back rooms, and they get separated, and it's like, oh shit, that's one of the biggest oh shit moments of the movie. Oh my god, oh god, I was with the first time I saw it, I was with friends, and I was grabbing onto their hands. I'm like, oh god, oh fuck, oh my god. Oh, so good.
And the thing is too, like I've seen some criticism levied about it of like liminal photography's not new, The Shining, liminal spaces aren't new.
Yes, of
No,
course.
it's not fucking new. Like, you know,
Nothing's
you know,
new.
I don't think it's claiming to be new either.
No.
Now, the idea, Dom employed the term earlier, the idea of no clipping in video game terminology and exiting reality, that's sort of the new undercurrent of this concept, is that. And I think The Shining is going to be a popular point of comparison, which I understand. I think this movie, though, is so germane to like the rise of analog horror, where the focus is on replicating this like lo-fi VHS aesthetic that,
Yeah.
again, was such an integral part, speaking as the three of us, because we're all around the same age, an integral part of our childhoods and how we watched movies. And now how people like Jane Schoenbrom, who I know is much older than Barker and Parsons, but like Jane Schoenbrom and the brothers who made Late Night at the Devil, they've taken that and they've overlaid like an ominousness to it because it's imperfect and it's not digitized, not clean aesthetically. And another point of comparison with this too, and we didn't talk about this on the show. I wasn't a big fan of this movie personally. I like the aesthetic, but I wasn't a personal big fan of it, was Skinamarink.
Yeah.
You know, like that was one of those movies I classify as like a movie that's more fun to talk about than endure. And it was about the same length as Backrooms too. And it was like, and it just got to be nothingness. I thought the concept, not intrinsically the same, but I thought I saw the TV glow, took the concept and took the idea and gave it a purpose.
Yeah.
And I like that. This is much more opaque than I saw the TV glow, which is a metaphor in itself, but it's more grounded in a way than Skinamarink.
Skinamarink is what this movie could have been had it not introduced its cast. And centered it around them to make it a genuine character-driven thing, or at least parts of it a character-driven thing. And let's get into that. Let's get into what actually happens with our cast here, in terms of like their motivations, their trials and tribulations beyond just escaping whatever entity is chasing them. And I just gotta say, I liked what I saw. I think some of the criticisms that I'm seeing online, and I actually do kind of do see it, is talking about whether it's the stilted or not stilted. That's too strong. But at times, for really lack of a better term, trying to sound old, trying to sound mature, trying to sound like an adult conversation between particularly Ejiofor and Rensve. I can certainly see that, but for me, what I think what I saw was just efficiency, and was it compelling? I thought it was. Maybe not the most compelling thing because I was too wrapped up in everything else going on or what I was about to endure. but I thought it was a pretty straightforward thing. And I am A-okay with that when the world here and the aesthetic of it all is clearly overshadowing what the real people are going through, which, if anything, is what is so scary about the backrooms.
Yeah, and the other thing I think is that's going to be, and it's something I've had to correct myself on too, even on this show too, is that it's this might be based on Kane Parsons' web series. Parsons is not a writer on this movie, though. No. That's another thing too. It's Will Sudick, and there's not a lot of information on him. He worked on the show Homeland. Judging by photos, I just Googled, there's no incredible documentation. He's probably in his early 40s.
It's like one episode. I think I'm looking at his IMDb. It's like one episode of Homeland, 10 episodes on Ash versus Evil Dead as a story editor, an episode of Westworld, and then Backrooms. Like that.
And he's not been out front and promoting this either, which I find interesting. Just, you know what I mean? Because like he's kind of let Kane Parsons sort of assign himself credit, autonomous credit on this thing.
If you watch the original like YouTube Kane Parsons' original YouTube series, Kane Pixels, none of the cast is in those YouTube videos, which makes sense. I'm glad that it exists on its own, as its own individual story in the world of the Backrooms. So I do wonder if it was a case of Sudick, because it's two O's. You're right. Sudick did basically the interpersonal story between Ejiofor and Rensve, whereas Kane Parsons focused on, and then Kane Parsons kind of worked around that with his story. Obviously, I'm sure Parsons, signed off on the story as well and stuff like that. But I do wonder if that was the dynamic. I would love like a whole documentary on how the boy wonder, Kane Parsons, how did it come together?
No, but like the director commentary for this movie is something I'm really interested in hearing, man. It really is, just to hear where he was going into this, and then while filming it and everything, and just like talk about those scenes where it's like the scenes that are not taking place in the back rooms, and they're taking place in the in Mary's office, or they're taking place at Clark's warehouse with all the furniture, and just hearing what he has to say about those scenes in comparisons to the stuff that's taking place in the back rooms, where it's like, I know that's your bread and butter, but tell me a little bit more about the stuff that's outside of this, because I would love to hear was this stuff like you're saying, Don? Was this stuff he basically had the other writer kind of do, and then he signs off on it, and then he works around it when they come into his realm of territory here? I can't. It's a director's commentary I'm looking forward to listening to,
because Kane's other works on YouTube, he doesn't do a lot of relationships, not romantic, but just literally any interpersonal relationship. I don't think I've seen much of that. It is basically just Backrooms-esque found footage, mystery, horror, chasing, all that.
It's straight to the point with what it wants to do as a short.
And that's why I think they had to hire out a writer too, because they're like, all right, we got this kid. Again, they built 30,000 square feet of set for this thing too, which he created on that software known as Blender. And I sound old as shit when I talk about it, but they contracted him because of his because of him being a visualist, and because of knowing the beats of how to capture this. They saw the cinema in his web series, and they thought, if we can give this kid even $10 million, which is not a lot of money in Hollywood, we put $10 million behind this movie, we can get, and they're empty fucking rooms. You know what I mean? There are a couple sets. It looks like an IKEA. You know what I mean?
You actually can phone this in.
You can undercut.
Hey, I didn't get done building the desk. That's fine. Just fucking leave it.
I found this desk at Goodwill. Break it. You know what I mean? This is an economical movie in that regard too. But they brought him on. You can tell they brought him on as a visualist, and they brought him as somebody who could capture, who knew how to portray this setting authentically, as authentic in relation to his vision and of the concept as it can be. And again, kind of devolved or segueing into closing thoughts and such like that. At least I am too. It's I know I'm Pete Repeat with this, and I've said it in like so many different reviews too, but it's like the current generation of horror directors is thriving right now. From Jordan Peele, Zach Kreger, Rose Glass, Ari Aster, Scott Derrickson, Robert Eggers, Oz Perkins. Now you've got Curry Barker and Kane Parsons who like got next. Like who clearly have next. And what I think is going to happen, and this is something I said kind of at the end of last show too, and even kind of a little bit with Obsession, or a little bit during our review of Obsession, is that, you know, Hollywood spent so much of the last like 20 years alienating younger people and going with more directors for hire or established people that had worked in media and like formal media for several years. Now they realize it's like, if we can give these kids, and I'm kind of more speaking as like a studio head, if we can give some of these TikTokers and YouTubers who are used to only working with a few hundred to a couple $1,000s, we don't even have to cash them out. We don't have to give them a Marvel fucking budget. We don't even have to give them a mid-level budget. We can give them
10 million is a Marvel level budget for this.
That's what I mean. We can give them 10 to 15 million on the upper echelon.
Give them a Mountain Dew and a 5-hour energy, and they'll create wonders.
And what they're also, I think, going to realize, and what executives are seeing now, is that like the audience that Curry Barker and Cooper Tomlinson's That's a Bad Idea talks to, the audience that Kane Pixels talks to, is the audience that is like, for the most part, unreachable from conventional advertising. So they have a built-in audience as creators that is so hard to penetrate for conventional advertising too. So what they realize then is like, if we come up with a cool non-linear marketing thing, we can get the people that don't know while they already have a loyal following of people who will go see this movie. Fucking Markiplier did it with Iron Lung, and he bankrolled that thing himself. You know, so that's another thing that I'm really fascinated about, because it takes like 2 to 3 years for a trend to fully develop. Just so happens these two came out, you know, in the same month, but Obsession and Backrooms. But what I'm really fascinated now is to see like, and they're not all going to be good. They're not all going to be good. That's just the way it works. But I do think now the pendulum is going to swing in another direction where they're gonna actually give these young filmmakers, men and women, a chance, and they're gonna let them tell an original story. We've seen both now Backrooms and Obsession in single day earnings now multiple times, and even this weekend at the box office, it beat fucking Star Wars. Like, it beats Star Wars. And I find it so inspiring. It's been a long, long time coming, and I find it very inspiring too. So I know I kind of talk more externally, but to bring it back home to the Backrooms too, like, this was a movie I just really connected with from an early on. Whether it was the repressed nostalgia of my experience of peering into closed businesses, or just the intrigue level of it and buying the performers and everything, it's 3.5 out of 4 stars for me.
Hell yeah. Joe?
I didn't get much into my criticisms, which was this basically. When you get to the second found footage segment, that's kind of where the movie peaks for me. And I'm not saying it goes downhill.
I understand that.
Yeah, it doesn't go downhill from there. It just kind of plateaued. It didn't, like, you know, the stakes didn't get, it didn't get crazier than that for me. Even when the final reveal of like the last entity was revealed,
right?
Even that was just kind of like, I actually kind of saw this coming as like the final thing based on how the story was going. And I'm not trying to be like, I'm smarter than you. It's just like, no, this is kind of what I thought it was. I also thought just the ways it was trying to explain itself towards the end of the movie, I was like, this is not really needed. We can actually keep this more of a mystery, and I think this will be better. I don't know. I don't know which screenwriter is to like kind of like tap on and be like, hey, for the next one, don't really do that again. Just kind of keep it more vague. That being said, man, dude, I love this movie. Like, you know, it's like I still like, you know, even though like you could be like, what, like halfway through the movie, it kind of like peaked for you. Yeah, but it was one of the best found footage horror segments I've seen in a horror movie in a very, very, very long time. And we were saturated with found footage horror movies for a long period of time in the 2010s, thanks to the Paranormal Activity craze. So to be like, dude, this felt refreshing. This felt so good, and it's one of my favorite segments in the movie. And it's one of my favorite horror segments ever. I have to give this 3.5 out of 4 stars. There's no way I could be like, dude, it's like one of the best things ever. 3 stars. And I had that written down at first, but the longer this kept sitting with me, and the more I thought about the ending too, that final shot, I wish I can go into detail about it, but it sat with me for a long time. And I'm like, man, you know, at first I wrote down 3 stars, and even on my letterbox review, it's 3.5 out of 5. But for Sleepless, I'm like, as long as it sat with me, I'm like, yeah, dude, no, this is gotta be 3.5 out of 4 stars. It's just been sitting with me, and just talking about it with friends, it's definitely raised it up for me and made me appreciate the film more.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Dom. Send us home.
YouTube famous creatives, found footage, liminal space aesthetic, indie gaming a la Gmod, 4chan / creepypastas a la SCP, lo-fi / microtonal music, analog horror. Backrooms is an authentic film because it's a celebration of the internet when it was authentic. It didn't invent anything. You could argue it didn't innovate anything. It just did everything and did it right. This is a piss yellow watershed moment in movies, and I cannot wait to see where we go from here, particularly where Mr. Parsons himself goes on to. Carries himself very well in interviews. 4 out of 4 stars. All criticisms I actually really agree with. And for me, honestly, that last half star that puts it over the edge for me is just the culmination, the final product where it's like, yeah, this feels good. This feels right. It all came together. And sometimes that's all that matters.
Dude, anytime I've seen a movie, either within 24 hours of seeing it the first time, yeah, it's a 4-star movie.
I'm telling you, this is like Barbenheimer, where it's like, yeah, we're back to back 4 stars on this. This feels great. This will stick with me.
Excellent conclusion there too. And with that, next week, it's Scary Movie.
The real 4 out of 4 stars.
Can we hit the trifecta? Can we hit the trifecta with Scary Movie 6? As it's going to be colloquially known, although it's just Scary Movie for all intents.
I think
and
that's
purposes.
a good gag. I think that's a good gag in and of itself.
Oh yeah. It's playing to reboots, and like even the most recent or Scream 5 was just Scream. Like yeah, it's absolutely playing to that.
I think
remember
a better gag would have been if they called it The Scary Movie.
or something like that. Yeah, that's true. You know, but I like, just because I'm a fan of subtleties on posters too. If you look on the posters, the V and the I are a different color in the text, Roman numerally.
Oh my god!
Like you know, so I you pick out nuances on shit like that. It's fun, but yeah, Scary Movie 6 next week. So I'm looking forward to chatting about that one. It's gonna be a little bit of a different one. I guess we had The Naked Gun last year too, so that was another spoof movie. So this will be really taking the piss out of the horror movie train over here too. So, I have one. I'm gonna save it for next week though, but I have a very just interesting nagging thought about a new scary movie film in this day and age that's just been nagging at me for the last couple of weeks, but I'm going to save that for next week. That's our show tonight. Really glad Joe got to join us too as well. That is our show. Backrooms now in theaters, making a ton of money. Grateful for it. Go see it. Check it out. And Dom, thanks again for hosting tonight in lieu of some changes and whatnot. So appreciate that. Other than that, that is it. We're back next week, same time, same place for Scary Movie. Until then, for Dominic Guanzon, Joe Viso, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.